That is to say, and I quote the Rabbi over here, everything that is described as my work, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is work, has been made by me for the sake of my will and for no other purpose. And for no other purpose. Only the Rabbi can write something like this because of his unbelievable genius. He realized, and he writes this over there, why having a universe if all what is in this world of importance is how we behave? If that's the whole story, then you don't need the universe. The answer is, we are only a very little part of all of this. And we do not stand at the center of everything. But what is very important, one can't emphasize that enough, is the ultimate meaning of human beings' lives. For where our joy, our simcha can be drawn, and why we feel that we have a tremendous meaning. And speaking of Tisha, let us remember Sefer Eov, because the whole of Sefer Eov, Job, is making exactly that point. When the Eov, on the very end of the story, some people read Eov on Tisha. On the end of the story, he starts to complain a little to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why did you do this to me? Unfair. I did not do anything wrong. Which is true. Is Chavirim, is people who say you must have done something wrong. The answer says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he never did anything wrong. He was a complete tzaddik. So why did it happen to me? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu answered this unbelievable statement of his. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth, of this universe? What are you telling me? What are you asking me over here? Tell me if you have any understanding. That's the ultimate answer. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you must realize one thing. When I do things to you, you have to realize that their reasons may be something you don't know about. You will never know about. Not everything is a matter that you are guilty of an avirah or whatever else it is. It is purely because lichvodi. There is something going on within me which requires these things to happen even so they don't make any sense to you. I am not all love. I'm not only mercy. I am not always what you want me to be because bigger things are at stake. Perhaps in the other world we will know more about it, perhaps we will never know. Let's not put HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a box like Spinoza is warning us of and making him into a circular or into whatever he thinks people are doing to him because that's Avodah. And so, my friends, it is about the mitzvot as well. There are some mitzvot which are, from our point of view, completely and totally unacceptable. The matzah. The question why a woman can't give a get to her husband. Why the story is very often male biased. The story is not what we would like it to be. It would be marvelous if the story would be the way as we would like it to be, but that would be the end of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu really stands for. Let me show you a marvelous, unbelievable, dangerous kind of Midrash. In Tehillim, it reads like this. Lechu u're'u. Come and see. Mif'alot Elokim. The deeds of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Nora alila al bnei Adam. The terrible things which he has done and is still doing to man. Tehillim, chapter, Psalm, Mizmor 66, Pasuk 5. I repeat. Lechu, come and see. Nif'alot Elokim, the deeds of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Nora alila, they are terrible. Al bnei Adam, on the human being. Thus the Midrash says the following. Here the enormous, I would really say the enormous chutzpah of the Chazal who are prepared and the daring of Chazal to say this. Omar Rabbi Yeshua bar Karcha, said Rabbi Yeshua bar Karcha, even those offenses that you bring on us, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, bring on us, They are done by Alilah. They are done by, and the word Alilah now becomes highly problematic. Let's say it means total unfairness. You are handling us in total unfair ways. Says the Midrash, I'll give you an example. Hear this. When Adam HaRishon eats from the tree of knowledge, he is called to be responsible for the fact that afterwards Mavet, death, enters into this world. Says the Midrash, this is not true. Because the Malach HaMavet was created before Adam HaRishon. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu already knew that there was going to be Mavet. And then afterwards he puts the guilt on Adam and Chava. Hear this, what the Midrash says. It's very interesting. The Midrash says, what can we compare this? Hear the answer. To a man, I translate literally out of Hebrew, who wished to divorce his wife. He wanted to give a get to his wife. When he wanted to enter his house, he wrote a get, a bill of divorce, and entered the house with the get in his pocket. And had the bill of divorce in his pocket. He then sold an alilah to give it to her. He needed to find a way how to give this get, a reason why he would give the get to his wife. So he said to her, pour me a cup that I may drink. Give me a glass to drink. A glass of tea to drink. She poured it for him. As soon as he took the cup, he said, here is your get. She said to him, what did I do wrong? He said, go out of my house because you poured me a lukewarm cup. You hear what's going on? The man has already made up his mind that he's going to give a get. Now he looks for an alilah, for a way to justify what he already had in mind. Says the Midrash, that's exactly what HaKadosh Baruch Hu did to human beings. He says to the human being, you are guilty of bringing Mavet, bringing death into this world. Truth about it is, like in the case of the get, I already had made up my mind that no doubt Mavet will enter into this world. But afterwards, I made you guilty of it. My dear friends, let me tell you something, and I know what I'm speaking about. No author of religion would ever dare to make a statement like this about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We are saying to him, you're doing things which are alilot to us. But you know why we have to accept this? Like in the case of the get, it means only one thing. We don't know who you are. We have no idea what this is all about. We don't know what the meaning of our lives is all about. The only thing what you tell us is, here's your get. Here is Mavet. And alilah. The Midrash continues, gives several examples. I'll give you one more. When Yaakov Avinu goes down to Egypt, and the whole reason why he goes down to Egypt is because of the fight between the brothers with Yosef. And we are then being told that that was the reason why they got into Egypt. Then the Midrash says, that's not true. Yosef and his brothers never were the cause of why the people had to go down to Mitzrayim. Why not? For one very good reason. Avram Avinu was already told hundreds of years earlier that that would be the case. So it was already planned, the whole thing. So this is an alilah. And the only answer what the Midrash gives is, Ze ma sheyesh. This is what there is. This is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is talking in a completely different language than the language we would like to speak, but we can't speak because we are speaking about something, somebody who is totally beyond anything what we will ever comprehend. The beauty of the Jewish tradition is that it is not only prepared to admit that, but to emphasize that. Let's not make HaKadosh Baruch Hu in an idol. Let's not make idol worship out of him. And let's not make the mistake that therefore that we think that we need to know what kind of mitzvot should be in the Torah, which ones would not be in the Torah. No, there's more to this world than just mitzvot. There's more to this world where sometimes mitzvot are required. And this is a dangerous word to say, but it's no doubt what is implied over here. Even when these mitzvot don't seem to go along the line of what we normally consider to be morally responsible or correct. Now, how does that work? Who is HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Have a look again in your page. A quotation by a friend of mine, living in Yerushalayim, Professor Yehuda Young, in a book of his, called God's Kindness Has Overwhelmed Us. Very interesting book to read. Where he discusses the relationship between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the world. And he creates a mashal there, a parable there, which I think is very powerful. It's one of the best I've ever seen. Read with me. Consider the relationship between a computer's chip and a hard disk, the inside. On the one hand, and what you see on the screen on your computer when you view your computer. There is the hard, there's the chip, and there's the disk. What you see on the screen is the result of what is inscribed in the inside. That is to say, in the hard disk. Change the contents of the inside, the hard disk, and you will see something different showing on the screen. That's the way how you and my computer works. What is inscribed in the inside is nothing like that what you can see on the screen. I hope you get it. Very important. Whatever you see on the screen has no relationship whatsoever with what is in the hard disk. But we do know one thing, that the hard disk produces this particular thing on the screen. Inscribed in the inside are no colors or shapes of the picture on the screen. You can peer into the inside through the most powerful microscope, and you will see no pictures of people or words, which you do see on your screen. Still, the computer has a translation mechanism from inside to the screen, and that is what makes the picture in your screen. Then continues Professor Gelman, in God there is nothing like what you get on the world screen. That's what he has created. If we knew God as God is, we would not see what we see when we see God on the world screen. This is very well done. Very well done. What are we speaking about, God? We are finding ourselves on a computer chip. There we see all sorts of things. We then want to find out from where does it all come, and we're going to look into the hard disk. Do we see anything in the hard disk? Garnished. Absolutely nothing. There's nothing there, but we do know one thing. It all comes from there. That, says Professor Gelman, is the relationship between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the world. We do not understand that relationship. But it's definitely there, because take the hard disk away and you won't have anything on the screen. But there's another side to God as well, my dear friends. Go to the next step. Dr. Johanna Moufs was an important philosopher, Jewish philosopher. When we speak about God, we also speak about the human side of God. That's the interesting thing within this whole tradition of ours. We just spoke from the point of view that anything where we speak about God in human terms is Avodah Zarah. But we cannot deny that there is another story, and that's the difference between the disk and the computer screen. On the computer screen, we see a lot of things in HaKadosh Baruch Hu which are very human-like. Says Professor Johanna Moufs, read this me. God appears to experience all human emotions. Love, anger, involvement, indignation, regret, sadness, and so on. By doing so, and this is crucial, he gives the seal of divinity to the very essence of our humanity. He implicitly says to man, you cannot know what is above and what is below, but you can know what is in your hearts and in this world. These feelings, reactions, and emotions that make up human existence are, if illumined by faith and rationality, all the divinity you can hope for. We can only understand the divinity not on the hard disk, but only on that little thing called the computer. To be human is to be divine. As I, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as I am holy, so you shall be holy. As I am merciful, so you shall be a Rahmanan, and merciful. Thus there is only one kind of knowledge that is open to man, and that is the knowledge of God's humanity. There. That's the difference between the disk, the hard disk, and the computer stream on the other side. Are both true? Yes, they're both true. And therefore, when we have to speak about Cardozo Baruch Hu, we must speak about him in human terms. When we speak about his human elements, regretting, being sorry about something, all the humanity comes through over there. Why? Because if Cardozo Baruch Hu would not put that on the screen, we would not have been able to make any relationship with him. It would be a complete Deus absent-contus, as they call it in Latin, a completely absent God. And therefore, a beautiful observation was made by Professor Shaul Sol Lieberman, famous Sol Lieberman, at the Jewish Theological Seminar, who himself was very much an Orthodox Jew in every respect, a tremendous study prophet, who once wrote the following: the most tragic figure in the whole of the Bible is God. And that's true. Because God has to manipulate between two worlds, who he really is and what he has to do when he wants to make connection with us, and he has to get on the screen. But we are never allowed to forget that there is a hard disk. And if we are going to say about the hard disk, therefore, God must do this and this and this, we have made out of the hard disk an Cardozo. On the other side, that we need to relate to him, we can come to him and say, we don't like a mitzvah which is called manzu. We don't like the idea that there's aguna. And Cardozo Baruch Hu says, you're absolutely right from your point of view, I'm with you. You know, there's a whole story in the Midrash about the mamzer. When the mamzer is complaining that he is discriminated against, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you are absolutely right. We should take the person who has made this law come into existence to judgment. Speaking about himself. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to them, listen, one day I will solve the problem. That's solving the problem between the disk and the computers. Now I will add one more fact to this. Please do not misunderstand. Because of this reason, not all the disasters which happen in this world, not all illnesses and calamities which happen in the world are the result of human action or inaction. They are not always the result of averot which you and I do. We cannot always walk around and say anything what goes bad in this world is our fault. My dear friends, that's not true. It is often true, but that's not always true. When we speak about Tisha B'Av, we know because our Nevi'im, our prophets have told us that the reason why the two Midrash came down is because of us. So we are guilty, and we better do Teshuvah. But does that mean to say that every time something happens in your and my life, and a terrible thing sometimes happens, that therefore I must say, Asham Begatnu Gazal? No. Why not? Because it may be something in the disk, in the hard disk, and it is not something on the screen. Forgive me for saying so, and I know I'm very critical. I think that we Jews, religious Jews, make a mistake. Always to look into the mirror at every occasion and say we must have done something wrong. It creates enormous guilt feelings, which is highly unhealthy. When we are being told by our Nevi'im, by our earlier sages, that indeed there are things where we really went wrong, we have to do Teshuvah. At also time we have to say, Zen Mashiach. This is part of this unbelievable picture of which we have no idea at all. When Eov is being told by Cardozo Baruch Hu, who are you to tell me? Were you there when I was Yaseit, the world, when I put the world in this place? But you may come back to me, so Robert Cardozo, what you're saying over here is highly dangerous. Your life is fatalistic. It's basically saying anything can happen, and that's what it is. Same machines. And indeed there are, within the religious world, there are people who say this. Who say, you know, whatever comes to us, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has made up his mind, and that's the end of it. But you and I know quite well that the Jewish tradition don't work like that. It doesn't work like that. What we are taught by the Jewish tradition is, fight it. Wherever you can. Fight the earthquakes. Fight it. Tsunamis. Get the knowledge to be able to overcome them. Fight illnesses. Try to increase your medical knowledge. Different kinds of surgery. Illnesses, pain. Also the senses. Fight them. Why? Because, as you quite well know, the Torah says, you shall heal the person who's sick. And that does not only go on the person who's sick, it is about any sickness in this world which may damage us. We have a mitzvah aseh, a positive commandment to fight it. The Rabbi means to say not only when I'm ill, but it's also I have to fight an earthquake. I have to fight a tsunami. I have to find ways by scientific knowledge, whatever it is, till I overcome this. And let's give it a proper name. This is called damage control. But against whom? Against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He tells us, I create the damage, you find it back. That's what I want you to do. I bring it on you, you go and find a way out to heal the whole situation. And so it is with everything else, and you know that. That's typically Jewish. We are told to rectify things which are wrong in this world, which HaKadosh Baruch Hu created, for reasons we don't know. We are being told to heal, to build, to overcome. And so it is true about moral issues as well. When Avram Avinu is being told that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to destroy the Sodom and Gomorrah, what does he say? Chalil alacha. How can you do a thing like that? The Shofet Haaretz, will the judge of the world do something which is not correct? He fights back. HaKadosh Baruch Hu never says to him at the same time, pardon? Keep on to your own business. I'm God. Here we see a whole also dimension coming through within the Jewish tradition. The need to fight against HaKadosh Baruch Hu when he asks us to do so. That's a mitzvot aseh, v'rapo yirapeh. Moshe Rabbeinu fights HaKadosh Baruch Hu when HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to make an end to the Jewish people in the middle of those story with the golden calf, with the Chet HaEgel. Fine. That's what I want you to do, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Damage control. The same damage control also applies to the mitzvot. And if you look in the Talmud, you see it everywhere. What did the Talmud do? What does it tell us? Chazal decided that the Amalek no longer exists. All the nations were mixed up, and that was the end of it. To be quite honest, I'm not so sure that that's really true. And it doesn't matter. Chazal said, this is what we decide. And the reason why we decide so is very clear, my dear friends. It is morally impossible to continue to live with a mitzvah killing children and women of Amalek. So what do? We nullify the whole thing. There are no Amalekites anymore. The Ben Zorah or Moreh, do you remember? The rebellious son, Chazal tells us, Lo haya v'lo yeh. It was never and it will never be. So there's one shita that says there were some of them. But the normal understanding of the Gemara is, indeed, the sages, decided it is impossible to apply the law of Ben Zorah or Moreh by looking in a certain way into the distribution. I will not go into this now. Ago, they've just done away with it. What is it? Damage control. The Prusful Shmitayu, damage control. We couldn't be able to live with the thing without the Prusful today. The 40 lashes, the Chachamim made it 39 lashes. And then you know quite well, we found so many ways unbelievable, and to be quite honest, don't tell the rabbis, far-fetched ways to do away with the cancer problem. When they found one little thing, I just heard that in Holland, from where I come originally, many, many years ago, straight away after the war, there was a case where a man who everybody thought was dead, and his wife had remarried again, and had 2 children, and the man appears again, and he was not dead. And the Beit said, well, then the children are mamzerim. So they brought the case in front of Rav Unterman. And the Rav Unterman listened to this particular woman, and he said at a certain moment, I'm sure that the ring of the man who you first married in Poland was not his. He was so poor it couldn't have been his. And therefore you were never married to him, so your children are not mamzerim. You have to be Rav Unterman to say this. But this shows the greatness Is it far-fetched? Sure, it is far-fetched. But he was listening to a moral voice. He was saying there is something else within man, and that a moral voice is like a mitzvah. It is like saying, be moral under all circumstances. And if, and we'll see in a moment why, there are mitzvot which I gave you, which seem to oppose your morality, you know what? Listen to your morality. Fight back. The Agunah problem. Fight back. A Kohen and a Kurusha. Fight back. If you have anywhere an opportunity. Why? Because it works with the same principle as fighting an earthquake, or for that reason, fighting a tsunami. But now, my dear friends, it's the last part. And it is this. What happens if we have no weapons anymore? Where we are sold out on our weapons. We try to fight the earthquake and it's still there. We fight every way possible and the tsunami was still there. True, one thing is important. We continue to try to find new means to overcome it. But at this moment we don't get it. The kelim are not there, as we said. What are we going to do now? We need them to succumb. We have to say, okay, we have to bow our heads. We cannot yet stop all these tsunamis and all the earthquakes. We'll continue in the meantime to do scientific discovery to make it better and better so that one day the Ezrat Hashem will overcome it. But it's a limit. That's who we are. And again, it doesn't mean to say that therefore the earthquake is fair or that the tsunami is fair. It's unfair, but it seems to have something to do with the hard disk and not with the computer. We're up against the wall. We're running out on arguments or we're running out on our scientific knowledge. Well, my dear friends, that's the question exactly which now gets on the table in front of our poskim. And I can only make a suggestion more than one. Perhaps, and I know what I say is dangerous over here, and I don't think this is a final statement on my side, but I want you to think about it because I think there's a lot of truth in this. It may be that just as there are obstacles in this world on a physical level, such as an earthquake and such as a tsunami, there may be obstacles in this world which are called mitzvot. The obstacle is the mitzvah itself. For one good reason. Just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates obstacles to see if we will challenge it, if we will fight back. Perhaps there are also mitzvot which we need to challenge and fight back. And they were just as the earthquake was given by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the mitzvah was given by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Natural disasters, diseases, tsunamis, we all agree to that. But sometimes it may quite well be true, and I think that the whole halachic way of progress, how it is working, what it has been since the days of the Talmud, seems to indicate itself as well. Perhaps HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us some mitzvot in the Torah and said, use your damage control kind of arguments to fight me on this mitzvot. Let's see what you come up with. Just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu hears from Avraham Avinu saying to him, an unbelievable chutzpah, Chalila lecha olach, hashofet kol haaretz, lo ya'aseh mishpat. How can you do anything like this? Far is it from you, Avraham Avinu says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, will the judge of the entire earth not do justice? Perhaps that applies also to the Manser law, to the Agunah law, to some also cases like that, where we run ourselves into moral difficulties, and perhaps the reason why these laws are there is for the same reason that earthquakes are there, to challenge us, to see, no, what are you going to do now? Will you find a halachic way to overcome the problem, by which you ultimately, and for all, you will solve this particular problem? But here are certain requirements. First of all, this has to be done in tremendous humility. It cannot be done from a feeling like, I'm proud or anything. And by the way, I just want to emphasize that. We are speaking here not about certain feelings and emotions where you feel not good about it and therefore you would like to change the law. I'm not speaking about that. I speak about something which Immanuel Kant, the great German philosopher, used to call a categorical imperative. There are certain things where a voice in you and in me are so strong that there's nothing which can destroy it. This is wrong, by all means. If we have that categorical imperative about certain things and we are very humble at the same time, and we come to Cardozo who we say we cannot accept these things. We agree, you have given us. But the reason why you gave it to us is to see if we are listening to our categorical imperative. Like Chazal did with the Benzori or Amori. Clear what they did over there. They said, we will not accept this to become halakha l'maaseh because it's impossible to accept all this. The Torah was given to us to improve it. I repeat that statement. The Torah was given in our hands to improve it in the same way that the world was given into our hands to improve it. Don't leave the Torah what it is. Don't leave the world for what it is. Work on it. Work on the Torah. Find arguments by which you indeed are able to overcome the problems involved within this Torah, so that in the end you have a final answer to problems such as the Manzer or the Aguna or anything like that. You have to try to overcome them in the sense that you have to overcome these very mitzvot because that's the reason why I gave them to you. Friends, do not misunderstand me. I'm not speaking about Shabbat. I'm not speaking about kashrut. There you can't come up and say, well, I don't feel about Shabbat. Or I want to do this on Shabbat and therefore I changed the law. No such thing. Yes, sir. But when it comes about moral issues of such importance as the future of human beings, by which people get hurt, that's a completely different story. And we actually have that. We have a concept within the Torah, your chief rabbi, Rabbi Riskin has written about it in great lengths, that we can undo all marriages in case of need, hafkaat kiddushin, we batil the kiddushin of the first marriage so that the second marriage is not a problem anymore. Not that this is easy to do, but the kelim are there to do this. And so we can do this with much and promise and all these matters as well. I ask you the question. Although you probably don't understand how I would answer that, but I'm only me. If there are mitzvot in the Torah, they indeed may be there only precisely for the reason that we should nullify them. That's building Torah. That's making the Torah in what it has to become. Torah lo bashamayim. It was given in our hands. Now we have to use whatever we have to make it better and better. And we need to work on it all the time. So here are my conclusions. God is not righteous in the way you would like him to be righteous. And the Torah is not moral in the way you would like it to be moral. But God definitely exists. And the Torah is definitely Hashanah. And let's not use the existence of evil in this world as a way to argue away the existence of God. That's Avodah Zarah. God has got nothing to do with the Muslim. When there are disturbing mitzvot in the Torah, let's use the same method which we use in the world of science, and that is try to overcome them by proper arguments which make sense, which are rooted in our tradition, and they're all there. Because after all, we know there is more to this world than just the question how we need to behave. Otherwise there would not be universe out there, otherwise there would not be baby universes out there, otherwise there would not be black holes out there. Every time when a disaster happens on a community, it should no doubt lead to Shuvah. But we should not make the mistake to say that every disaster which happens to us is really our fault. Only when we are being told by Chazal, or by our Nevi'im, by our sages, or better by our prophets, that that is the case, we have to do that. But in the meantime, our ultimate goal is that obviously we have to do Shuvah wherever we can. We all know, each one of us, where we need to make Teshuvah and how to work on all this, so that we become tzaddikim ourselves and we become high moral people. But we should never get into a depression when we feel that things are not in our hands, because sometimes they are not in our hands. As the Rambam says, Kol Pa'al Hashem Lema'adeh. God made everything for his own sake, not for yours or mine. Like Eov says, where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. He was making a striking, very important point. There are issues in this world which are beyond us. And sometimes we have to accept HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the hard disk, in a way which is not always very pleasant. But we know the great joy behind all this, and that is, it has got all meaning. And therefore, and that's the last sentence I make, is this. That's the reason why the Mashiach is going to be born, or was born, on Tisha B'Av. Because ultimately, we know one thing. We are there for a very great, unbelievable reason. And as long as we know that, the simcha which will come from the Mashiach will, B'ezrat Hashem, come true. I thank you very much. If any people want to ask questions, please come to me.